and I think that's his race over.
Max Wissel very disappointed.
With €1 million to the champion, it's no wonder that Superleague Formula is so fiercely contested. Welcome to Jarama near Madrid for round 4 of the championship at the only racetrack in the area, and the local fans are hoping that Atletico de Madrid's successful history on the pitch can be matched on the track. Jarama was formerly the home of the Spanish Grand Prix, but this weekend some of the world's top drivers battle it out over 2 races and the super final here in Superleague Formula. The championship began at a rather wet and bleak Silverstone back at Easter, and it was where Craig Dolby proved to be a real star. Since then, we have gone to Assen in the Netherlands, we've been to Manicourt in France, and Jarama are home this weekend. In a week's time, it's off to Germany and the Nürburgring, then to Zolder in Belgium, back to Britain and Brands Hatch, with Italy, Portugal and Spain in the autumn. Adria, Portimao and Navarra, the venues. This is David Addison, along with Abby Griffiths in the pit lane, and Superleague Formula development driver Bruce Ioanni in the commentary box with me. And Bruce, this, our circuit for the day.
Yes, and a very nice circuit indeed. Very, very long straight, very fast, nearly 300 kilometers per hour at the end of the straight, especially with the wind pushing the cars backwards, forward today. And Sector 1 is very, very Mickey Mouse, very tricky, very technical, and it's a very, very fun track to drive, and we've got perfect conditions here today.
Now the championship comes to Jarama with Tottenham Hotspur in the ascendancy. They have had a really good start to the season thanks to Craig Dolby's efforts, and indeed a 54-point advantage here over AC Milan. RSC Anderlecht third, but there's a story attached to Davide Rigon's team. FC Basel fourth, ahead of Olympiacos and AS Roma. Liverpool is way down in 10th, but it's still doing better than other rather fancied squads. Take Olympique Lyonnais or Girondins de Bordeaux, for example, only 13th and 14th. Beijing only 17th. That's a team to look out for here, that's for sure. Another team to look for, though, is AC Milan. Jelmer Berman, the driver, and somebody who always excels around the Jarama circuit. He's done Superleague Formula's best ever lap around here. Let's find out how he does it.
Jelmer Berman, AC Milan.
This is one of my free practice laps in Jarama. This is the main straight, start-finish line, and going up to 6th gear. Still a bit damp. It's first practice in the morning, so quite tricky. Going all the way down from 6th to 2nd, braking at about 120 meters. Next one's flat right-hander. It's good fun, especially when it's a bit damp. It's tricky. Going all the way down from 5th to 2nd here in a double apex corner. Small acceleration between the two, and then down to 1st and back on the power, which is quite tricky with this power and this torque. A lot of wheel spin. Flat left-hander uphill, down through the gears all the way up to 6th, flat into the right, flat into the left, and then down to 2nd for a long right-hander. Normally a bit of understeer, but yeah, accelerate out, flat out. Then we have a very nice corner, one of the best of the track. It's a flat left-hander, downhill. Tricky, bumpy, and especially the braking after that, because it's down to 2nd. And then again, uphill, exit, full power, bit of oversteer. Back again to a double apex corner, 2nd gear, and then on to the main straight actually. There's one more king, flat right-hander, and we're back on start-finish line.
This weekend for Maria de Vallota, driving for Atletico de Madrid. She knows the circuit. She is determined to do well here on what is effectively home soil.
Round 4 of the 2010 Super League brings the teams to the Spanish capital of Madrid, a city steeped in history and tradition. For local-born racer Maria de Vallota, it's a dream come true to represent her home team, the recently crowned Europa League champions Atletico Madrid.
I go quite a lot to the stadium. I feel over there like in my home, and I also get their help from my physio. He's from the Atletico de Madrid. He also help football players. I know some people from the Atletico is going to be here. When you're in the track, when you are working, you just want to push for the Atletico. We are really focused in our work.
The Jarama circuit on the outskirts of the city also holds some special memories for Super League's only female racer.
I've been around here since I was really small, watching my father racing, so I know the track very well, and I also know that I'm going to have the whole support of my team, club, friends, family. It's going to be exciting.
After a difficult start to the season, the last round in France saw Maria at the front and Atletico challenging for honours.
We have tough days in Assen, but then in Manicourt we were getting better and better, and I think we are in a nice position.
Maria finally has does she? No, she gets past, but then she retakes second place. She's driving excellently here at the moment. Maria de Vallota, this is probably the best performance we've seen from her in a Super League car.
Last year we already showed a little bit of our performance, and I think this year we can go farther and farther, and I hope to have a podium. It's going to be really tough, I know, but can happen for sure. So I just can't wait to get into the car and go into the track and start enjoying it.
For race 1, however, Maria de Vallota for Atletico de Madrid finds herself way back on the grid. Indeed, she's going to start on the last row. She's left herself with a lot of work to do here, but let's find out how the grid is going to look as a result of yesterday's drama in qualifying. Qualifying began with a regular draw to determine which of the two groups the drivers would go into, Group A or Group B. And then the serious business was underway out on the circuit. There were dramas for Group A driver Davide Rigon. He needed an engine change before qualifying and he struggled. He missed the cut, and so too after a lock-up did a very frustrated Julien Jus. That meant that Beijing, Olympiacos, Flamengo and Liverpool were the 4 qualifiers from Group A. Then attention turned to Group B. AC Milan, FC Basel, Olympique Lyonnais and Spurs were the 4 teams that went through from Group B into the quarter-finals. The first quarter-final pitted Tottenham Hotspur against Beijing, John Martin against Craig Dolby. For Spurs, Dolby made a mistake, John Martin went through.
John beat you, mate, by 2:10.
The second quarter-final was won by AC Milan's Jelmer Berman at the expense of Liverpool. He goes across the line, he's out, I'm afraid, 12 thousandths of a second slowing. Sébastien Bourdais for Olympique Lyonnais was unable to do much in quarter-final 3. It was won by Olympiacos' Chris van der Drift.
Am I faster or not?
And quarter-final 4 pitted Flamengo against FC Basel. It was a demon lap by Max Wissel, and it was enough to put him through into the semi-finals.
Wow, what a lap from Max Wissel.
Beijing looked strong at the start of semi-final 1 though. And Max Wissel has got to drive the last 3 corners of his life really in order to make sure he goes through into the final, but it's not looking good, and that means that John Martin and Beijing goes through then. And they'd face the winner from Olympiacos and AC Milan. This time though, Olympiacos was just not quick enough.
It's going to be one super fast lap from AC Milan.
And so to the all-important final. John Martin for Beijing would take on Jelmer Berman for AC Milan. It's a 1:21.329. Pole position at Jarama, though, goes the way of Beijing, because AC Milan does a 1:21.5. It's not quite enough.
No, it's always find like qualifying is always the hardest part of the weekend, you know. So starting from the front, it's yeah, let's go win some races now. Happy days.
Happy days for John Martin. Is today going to be a good day for him? He starts on pole position for Beijing, and with him at the front of the grid, Jelmer Berman driving for AC Milan. The second row of the grid, Chris van der Drift, who's been good all weekend for Olympiacos, and Max Wissel for FC Basel lining up alongside. Then you have Franck Pereira for Flamengo and Sébastien Bourdais for Olympique Lyonnais, ahead of Liverpool's James Walker and Craig Dolby for Tottenham Hotspur, and we know what a good racer he is. He's a man to watch. A frustrated Julien Jus for AS Roma, 9th on the grid, ahead of FC Porto's Alvaro Parent. Robert Dornbos for Corinthians, 11th, and then Franck Montagny for Girondins de Bordeaux is next. The 7th row puts the Spanish driver Marcos Martinez for Sevilla FC alongside the returning Renka Dike for PSV Eindhoven, then Davide Rigon way back with Borja Garcia 16th on the grid for Sporting. The last row, Maria de Vallota for the local team, Atletico de Madrid, and then Tristan Gomedi for Galatasaray starts last. Well, weather conditions absolutely perfect here. There's a bit more of a breeze today than we had yesterday. Craig Dolby there, starting 8th on the grid. He's left himself with an awful lot of work to do here, but if anybody can overtake, it is Craig Dolby. And the man on pole position there is John Martin. And John certainly is a man to watch here. He needs points, Bruce, doesn't he? But he's looked so strong around Jarama all weekend. He's a good bet for a win.
Yeah, and he's been strong before, but he's been so unlucky in the past few races. And yesterday he made a tremendous job, was fastest in the testing and fastest in quali.
And Abby caught up with John Martin a little earlier.
About winning races, you're starting from pole. How can you exploit that position?
Oh, well, yeah, obviously we're starting from the best place possible, so the car was really easy to drive yesterday and it looked after its tyres really good, so no, really looking forward to today, and I think, yeah, as long as we get a clean start, I'm quite confident that we can do a good job in the race.
John, how important is it, not just for you, but for the other drivers as well, that Craig Dolby, who's leading the championship, is starting in 8th position?
Yeah, for sure, you know, that Dolby had some issues yesterday, but I'm sure the guys got it sorted out overnight, and I'm sure he'll be fast today, so it's, I'm sure he'll come through somewhere, but whatever, you know, we'll hopefully lead from the front and go and win the race.
Thank you.
So John Martin is the man that's going to start on pole position, and fingers crossed for him for a win. PSV Eindhoven returning to the championship, Narain Karthikeyan. Somebody else who is a spectacular driver, he's going to be one to watch. But starting on the 8th row is Anderlecht. Problems this weekend for David Irigon.
Davide, you had huge engine problems in testing yesterday. Meant qualifying didn't quite go to plan. Is the car totally ready now?
For sure, it's fixed. The car is ready. We don't know the setup if it works during the race because we have no data from the practice. We don't know nothing about the tires. So we will see. It will be a long race. So for sure, I will try to stay out of the crash and then try to get as much points as possible for me.
Davide, what is the strategy when you're starting this far back and you've got the two races so close together? Will you be looking to challenge or will you be looking to take care of the car?
For sure to keep the car well, but you know I have to think about the champion to get points also in the first race. So I'm not so concentrated to make a good performance in the second, but also in the first. So I have to get points. So just that is the problem today.
Tension mounting here at Jarama. We're about 90 seconds away from the start of the first race here. Remember, 2 45-minute races, and then we have the super final at the end as you look at Alvaro Parente, the Portuguese driver for FC Porto, and he lines up on the outside of the 5th row of the grid alongside Julien Jus, who yesterday was very frustrated, wasn't he, Bruce, when he had that lock-up and felt he'd cost himself a lot of time.
Yeah, we saw him throwing his gloves. He was really not happy, and I think it's a bit of a combination of things that made him not so happy. And here we've Tottenham Hotspurs and Craig Dolby.
And James Walker there lining up on the inside of the 4th row. First time he's raced here, so James has been getting more and more confident in the circuit as the weekend has gone. Sebastian Bourdais then, after his disappointment at Le Mans, lining up 6th on the grid. He's been a race winner this year in Superleague Formula. He's looking for another, and alongside him in the Flamengo car is Franck Pereira. As the grid is now being cleared, the mechanics have fired up the engines, and so the green flag lap will be getting underway very shortly. 5th is where you find Franck Pereira, but 4th is where you find Max Vissel. Remember, he won that safety car affected race at Magny-Cours, and lining up with him, Chris van der Drift, Assen race winner, and very good yesterday in the quarterfinals. There is the dual nationality Dutchman New Zealander, and Chris van der Drift on the 2nd row of the grid, and he will line up behind Jelmer Berman, always a fiery driver, someone who goes well around here, but on pole position for Beijing. A real turn up for the books, this. John Martin, the Australian driver, on pole position, and if he makes a good start, I suspect around here he's going to be pretty hard to overtake, because John knows how to defend, and he is somebody whose confidence has really grown this weekend as he's been quick through free practice and of course getting pole position.
Yeah, for sure. And when you say that he knows how to defend, it's really true, because he did a tremendous job in Magny-Cours. He defended 8 times, was never overtaken. So for sure he knows how to defend, but I think today he's going to be very quick, and he might not have to defend too much. The only guy able to challenge him is the AC Roma car with Jelmer Berman. The only thing that might change a little bit things today, it's the wind. It's extremely windy. Maybe the track conditions will be a bit different, and we might see a change of performance with some drivers. But we know for sure that Beijing is fast, and AC Roma as well are fast. The only guy that needs to do something for himself, it's Craig Dolby, because he's up there at the championship, and there's a bit of a chance for the others to catch up, because he's starting a little bit more down than usual on the grid.
And there you can see the way the championship looks at the moment. You're riding with John Martin, the man who will start on pole position. And remember that we've had 2 wins for AC Milan thanks to Jelmer Berman at Magny-Cours. We've had 2 for Anderlecht at Aston thanks to David Rigon, and 2 for Spurs. Craig Dolby 1 at Silverstone. Olympique Lyonnais had a victory at Silverstone as well thanks to Sébastien Bourdais. The other winner at Assen was Olympiakos. That was Chris van der Drift doing the driving duties, and Max Wissel won for FC Basel at Magny-Cours. So in other words, 6 different race winners. We could well have a 7th here in John Martin.
Yes, indeed, we could, as we're having a look from the inside of the Olympiakos car into those very narrow corners, getting the tyres warmed up, getting ready, all behind the safety car.
And then ready for the rolling start, and there's Craig Dolby. Well, we saw at Silverstone how effectively he can overtake. He's a very brave driver, but here there isn't quite the same width, there isn't the same room that he had at Silverstone.
No, there isn't. There is a long straight and a very, very tight corner at the end of the straight. I think lots of them are going to use push to pass. Atlético de Madrid right at the back of the field on her home ground. Maria de Villota, the only female driver. And this is David Hale, the engineer from the Beijing car. They're all set side by side, ready to go.
So here we go, 45 minutes of racing. Race 1 for Superleague Formula at Jarama gets underway now. Who makes the best start? John Martin just gets his nose in front as they go down towards Fangio, the first right-hander. But AC Milan comes up around the outside, and FC Basel looking for room as well. They dive into the braking area. Beijing leads. John Martin has done it. He secures the advantage. AC Milan goes second. Olympiakos third as they turn their way out of the first corner and now into this very twisty section of the circuit. FC Basel's Max Wissel was under pressure, and a good start here, look, by Craig Dolby and Spurs.
Yeah, he's in 6th position, I think, or maybe even 5th position, fighting with Flamengo side by side. Everybody goes through. AC Milan second, and yes, I think Tottenham Hotspurs in 5th position.
So Craig Dolby making progress, then he was 8th on the grid and he's 5th already. And there's further progress to be made on track and, of course, in the pit stop. The pit window between laps 8 and 20. And Craig Dolby absolutely flying, isn't he? He wants to try to gain ground early on when the field is tightly bunched.
Yeah, exactly. He's already all over the gearbox of FC Basel. And Max Wissel doing a very, very good job. And here he is, flat out in 5th gear, downhill left-hander. Ooh, the cars are moving a little bit when they touch the brakes. Tires not quite up to temperature. He's followed by Flamengo car, Frank Pereira, and Sébastien Bourdais. Craig Dolby on board. Taps on the inside, makes the apex.
And already John Martin has used one of his push to pass extra 1,000 revs. In his case, it's really push to pull away, and he comes across the line now. He leads at the end of lap 1 by 1.2 seconds, but the battle is on for 4th place, isn't it? Because FC Basel is being really pressured now. Look, by Tottenham Hotspur, down towards Fangio they come into turn 1. And a small error possibly under braking there from Max Wissel, and that was FC Porto getting sideways. Alvaro Perret having a moment.
Yeah, and Franck Montagny on the inside, and as well Craig Dolby on the inside of Max Wissel. He didn't quite make it, but now he's going to dive on the inside. No, Max Wissel is defending. Very good job from Max Wissel. Oh, he's on the inside, trying again, but it's too narrow with this big car.
And most drivers using one of their push-to-pass extra 1,000 revs on that opening lap. Not everybody, but most have used them either to gain a place or to try and pull away and buy themselves some breathing space. In fact, now Spurs under pressure from Flamengo because Craig Dolby has got Franck Pereira right up behind him. So now Spurs trying to attack and defend at the same time. And that's Bourdais for Olympique Lyonnais in 7th place, going after his fellow countryman, Franck Pereira, the man that drives for Flamengo.
Yeah, and Sébastien Bourdais used a push to pass, not on the opening lap at the start, but on the second lap. This one actually to try to overtake Franck Pereira and the Flamengo car, but didn't quite make full use of it because Franck Pereira defended. They're all together, tucked in.
You get 8 shots of this extra 1,000 revs, push to pass or push to pull away, and the car's then now making the run towards the end of lap number 2. But John Martin looking very strong already, edging away from the rest of them as we have battles that rage on down the field. But the leader goes across the line, and the advantage he's got now is 1.9 seconds. Beijing leads AC Milan in 2nd place. 3rd, it's Olympiakos, Chris van der Drift, and then for 4th and 5th place is FC Basel versus Spurs. And again, Dolby challenges going down towards the right-hander of Fangio. Basel drifts a little bit wide. Spurs trying to get up the inside. Is this Dolby's chance? Yes, they're almost wheel to wheel. He's got the inside line for the next corner. Has Dolby for Spurs? Is he going to go through? Yes, he's done it. Great move.
Yeah, great move. I thought he was going to use a push to pass, and he did actually use a push to pass on that lap to get closer, and he made full use of it and made up a place. Very impressive maneuver again from Craig Dolby, who, as always, is pushing very hard.
And now, look, Max Wissel for FC Basel is coming under pressure because Franck Pereira for Flamengo is closing on him. This is the replay of how Spurs made the place.
Yeah, he's on the inside line, perfect line for the next corner, doesn't give up, has a little bit more momentum than Max Wissel, and made it.
So there's the race leader, Beijing, John Martin. He has, of course, done the best lap of the race on that first flying lap, and he leads by nearly 2 seconds. Jelmer Berman in second place. And of course, they were the two drivers on the front row. They went head-to-head in the final through qualifying to determine who got pole position. But John Martin for Beijing has just looked so good all weekend, and here he is building this lead. It's Beijing ahead of AC Milan as they come up now towards the end of lap number 3, and across the timing line goes Beijing. There in second place is AC Milan, and on that lap he has lost another 4/10, so John Martin's advantage is building all the time. That said, Olympiakos third, Chris van der Drift is not really catching, and what about for fourth? For Spurs, yes, Craig Dolby now is lapping faster than the man ahead of him, so third and fourth is a gap that's coming down. There's Robert Dormos, the Corinthians, and he's got FC Porto tucked up behind him.
Yep, and the Girondin Bordeaux made a move. Franck Montagny is now in front of FC Porto, and he's right behind his Peugeot teammate, Sébastien Bourdais. Let's have a look again at the start. They were side by side, nearly touching wheels. Beijing made a move. Oh, there's so much happening at the back. All the cars, 3 cars ahead, head-to-head into the first corner. And great braking, not even locking wheels for John Martin. Kept the lead, made the apex. Very good job. And as well we saw Tottenham making a place around the outside of Franck Pereira. We're on board with Olympiakos. All clean, huh? No one made a mistake. Perfect job.
You're almost sounding surprised about that.
Yeah, because the first corner, they're arriving at 300 k's, and the first corner is in second gear at 50 k's per hour, or probably in first gear even on the first lap. So no, very good job from all of them.
Now you can see the way that Spurs have gained 4 places. If you look at the way that the drivers and teams have moved up the order, PSV Eindhoven has been making up ground as well, as has Atletico Madrid. But on track, John Martin leads the way, and he's got an advantage now of 2.8 seconds. He's used 2 of his push to pass, stroke push to pull away, and he's now got this almost 3-second cushion. He's just done the best lap of the race. So John Martin here pulling away into the distance, of course, trying to build up a lead before we get to the pit window.
Yes, exactly, and he's been lapping very fast, even on this last lap, nearly 6/10 quicker than AC Milan, doing a very good job there.
Galatasaray's Tristan Gormandi in 17th place at the moment, and he's somebody else, of course, switching from sports car duties a week ago back to Superleague Formula. You're riding with Atletico de Madrid in 16th place here. Maria de Vallotto with her track knowledge doing a pretty good job, and she's not that far behind Anderlecht. Look, Davide Rigon trying to gain the pace, coming out of the corner. Davide Rigon gets up alongside Marcos Martinez, or does he? No, slots back in as they climb uphill. But this little battle, they're delaying each other, and Maria de Vallotto is catching now.
Yeah, and that's not the right place to overtake, but Davide Rigon is still discovering that track because he didn't have any track mileage and any testing yesterday morning because they had a problem with his car, and he really has to push hard, try to overtake as soon as possible so he still can make up some points in that race, even though he wants to start up front in the second race. I don't think he's the kind of driver of thinking about starting or finishing at the back to start up front for the second race. He's pushing all the time, trying to get the best result out of every race.
He's a double winner already this year, Davide Rigon, and yet here he is down in 15th place and trying to attack, and conscious that Atletico de Madrid is catching. Behind them there's Galatasaray and then Sporting. Borja Garcia, the driver, in last place. He had an engine cooling system problem in the first practice session. He had a dead engine in the second. You're riding with Rigon, though, as he comes over the line.
He can't overtake, he's too far, even though he's going to get closer under the brakes. As you can see, it's still way too far to make a move. Marcos Martinez just in front of him, not very happy with his car setup, probably because he can hardly make the apex into the first corner. Let's have a look. Liverpool,
That's
James
a problem.
Walker, yep, puncture, right rear puncture.
So James Walker with his puncture limping round to the pit lane, and that is a disaster because he can't do that within the pit window, of course, because we've not done enough laps yet. So James Walker's race now, I'm afraid, is badly compromised.
Yeah, terribly compromised, and the second race as well. What are they going to decide to do? Probably give up on that first race rather than to change tire and go again and have to come back in the pits again. Probably not a good strategy. Davide Rigon still right in the gearbox of Marcos Martinez Sevilla car. He's a lot quicker, but he's stuck now behind him. Not flat through the left-hander. I could be flat, but there is a lot of fuel in the car, and the cars are still pretty heavy just now.
And there are the race leaders. 2.5 seconds is the gap between Beijing and AC Milan, between John Martin and Jelmer Berman, as they go down towards the little kink at Nuvolari and then right through Fangio. And behind them, what about Olympiakos versus Spurs? because now a personal best lap has just been done by Craig Dolby, but in fact the gap has not come down. It's still 1.8 seconds, so Chris van der Drift, somebody else that's looked pretty good all weekend around here, in fact he's there in third position. And the battle between the Anderlecht car of Davide Rigon and Seville's Marcus Martinez now turns its way through that first right-hander. Davide Rigon is close, but he's just looking all the time for the room.
Yes, and he's very hard to overtake around here in Jarama. He's just used another push to pass, so he has got 5 to go, as Sevilla, with who we're on board now, has still got 7. He's very close, look at that, but that's not the right place to overtake. Now going into faster sector 2, as you can see, very fast kinks, flat out through there.
A fantastic sound the cars make. Sadly, the sound in the Liverpool car is going to be one of disgruntlement, to say the least. James Walker limps back into the pit lane, so it's been a very slow, very long in-lap, of course, because that puncture happened really at the start of the lap, so he's had a lot of time lost coming into the pit lane. Now he's going to change the tyre. Race leader goes through 7 laps in the book now. John Martin still 2.5 seconds ahead of AC Milan, and in fact that time Jelmer Berman that just fractionally faster.
And the previous lap, AC Milan and Jelmer Berman was actually 3/10 faster, which means, and that is interesting, that the race is clearly not over. You know what's going to happen? AC Milan is going to come back and he's going to chase for the victory.
So the race still has a lot to offer, but sadly not for Liverpool. It's been a really frustrating season for the team, which of course had great success last year thanks to Ariel Reyes, but James had those 2 spins that cost him any chance of finishing the 2 races at Silverstone, for example. Now this puncture, another problem he could well have done without. He's lost a lap as well, and he's about to rejoin way down. In the meantime, what progress can Davide Rigon make? And someone's had a moment. They saw a green flag being waved by a marshal. It means there's a car off just before that, so I think it may well be down at the first corner. There's somebody that's gone off the road. We'll check who in a moment. Meantime, Girondin de Bordeaux's Franck Montagny accelerates uphill at the moment. He is in 8th place.
He's chasing Sébastien Bourdais.
And there's the car that's off. It is Borja Garcia for Sporting, I'm afraid. Sporting Club de Portugal, and the Spanish driver for the Portuguese team, a real Iberian coalition there. He's out of the race, and that car is very close to the edge of the road, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not standing at the right place. Yellow flag, so no one is going to be able to overtake at the end of the straight into that corner. Borja Garcia, who has had a terrible weekend with lots of problems on his car since the beginning, as we're seeing the yellow flags being waved. He had an engine problem, then he had an exhaust problem. He never had a clean run.
Yeah. And his race, I'm afraid, has come to a very early halt. The gap between the race leaders crept up last time because just fractionally faster was Beijing than AC Milan. Now there, Max Wissel for FC Basel coming under pressure from Pereira. Up with him, the man that drives for Flamengo. That's for 5th and 6th places. FC Basel versus Flamengo. And now drivers starting to pair off, aren't they? Getting themselves together. Whoops! That's a big slide there for Corinthians' Robert Dornbos, and that was under a yellow flag.
Yes, under the yellow flag as well. That's not what the kind of thing you need to do under a yellow flag, otherwise you get yourself in trouble and you might get a penalty. Anyways, he's still on track, still pushing, and he's having just behind him Narain Kartikeyan that slides the car on the throttle. PSV Eindhoven car. Narain Kartikeyan, who's back this weekend, who missed the previous race in Magny Cours because he was racing in the US. And they're racing against each other now.
And you've got 2 ex-Formula 1 drivers here, and Narain Kartikeyan at the moment is looking the slightly quicker of the 2 because he brought the gap down, and look at that, a big lock-up from Corinthians' Robert Dornbos, feeling the pressure.
Yeah, and if you look at the front left car, it's going to carry on locking up because he made such a big flat spot that every time when you hit the brakes again, you find the same flat spot on the front tire, and it gets very hard to brake hard because you're always going to lock the wheel, and the more you lock the wheel, the more vibration you get, and the car becomes completely undrivable. There's a car being very slow on track just behind those 2 guys. Not sure who it was. It's Franck Montagny, Girondin de Bordeaux.
And that's a disaster for the French driver then, because he's going to have to limp round to the pit lane. So the car that was running pretty well up in the top 10 limps to the pit lane, and this looks like it might be terminal.
Yeah, it's over for them because it's not anything on the car itself. It's probably inside. It's probably an engine or electrical problem, which means the race should be over. Hey, he's so close. Davide Rigon so close for Marcos Martinez, but there is a yellow flag and he can't overtake.
And look who's there behind him, because Maria de Velota here really going great guns for the home crowd from Atletico Madrid, is there on the tail of Davide Rigon. So he's held up, isn't he now, Davide? He's trying to get past Marcos Martinez. for Seville, but he can't. So Seville, Anderlecht, Atletico de Madrid, nose to tail as they turn their way out of Farina, and then the left-hander of Pagasso climbing uphill. And in fact, they're all being caught by Galatasaray. Tristan Gomendi is there in 15th place and creeping up onto the back of them. And Franck Montagny's car was in its pit garage, gets wheeled out again.
Yep, just to make sure the car is straight into the garage. It's strange to see Marcos Martinez struggling so much because he's a good driver. He's been winning races in other series, top single-seater series, World Series actually. And he can't get the grips out of this car. He can't get used to it. He's locking wheels. He's all over the place. David Erigon finds a way in. He made a mistake, Marcos Martinez, as we were talking about him. He locked the wheel going into the corner, the outside wheel, and David Erigon dived in, and so does Maria de Villota inside. Very good maneuver from her.
Really brave, great effort to go ahead of the Super League rookie. Marcos Martinez, his first year of Super League Formula racing. Now look at the way that, having been released, David Erigon is just storming off into the distance. This is Craig Dolby's view as well. Craig at the moment in 4th place and still chasing after Olympiacos, but David Erigon then comes across the line. Actually, having said he was storming away as they break for Fangio, he's being caught, isn't he? Because Maria de Villota here is driving a superb race.
I think she just used a push to pass to keep up with David Erigon, but she's fast. Let's see how she does in the twisty corners. She knows the track very well. David Erigon doesn't.
Yeah, he's still learning, isn't he? Corner by corner, he's getting more confident with it.
Oh, he goes sideways. She's going to have a look inside. No, right. David Erigon now has fresh air in front of him, which means clean aero as well. So he's going to lap a lot quicker.
2 or 3 laps till pit stop. 2 or 3 laps.
The pit window is now open, and 2 or 3 laps you're hearing as Franck Montagny walks away. 2 or 3 laps for Maria de Villota before she pits. The gap between the leaders has come down a bit more, incidentally, between Beijing and AC Milan. It's down to 2.2 seconds. The pit stops are going to be absolutely crucial, aren't they now?
Yeah, they are. I'm not sure whether they were asking her if it was 2 or 3 laps that she wanted to do before the pit stops, or if she was told.
And we've got Olympiacos coming in now, in fact. So Chris van der Drift has just come into the pit lane out of 3rd place. Flamengo is in as well, so early stops. There's Olympiacos. The tyre change, Franck Pereira drives past.
New tyres for Olympiacos.
And away goes Chris van der Drift then.
Flamengo, Franck Pereira. What are they going to do?
Corinthians in as well.
New tyres as well for Franck Pereira. Oh, the lap time is going to come down.
Blasts away. Some tyre smoke, burns the rubber, gets back onto the circuit now.
Corinthians as well.
Yeah, Robert Dornbos, of course, he would want new tyres after that big lockup.
Oh, yes.
So the Dutch driver, ex-Formula 1 racer, gets back onto the circuit now. And remember, Beijing leads AC Milan, but the gap is a little bit less between them. So let's see when they elect to pit. John Martin leading Jelmer Berman. Beijing ahead of AC Milan and 2.2 seconds, all that separates them. James Walker, after his puncture, is now in 16th place, but really that's only because we've got 2 retirements. Girondin de Bordeaux and Sporting have gone already. David Erigon, after his efforts to work his way up the order, he is 12th at the moment. And what further progress can be made as down the pit lane comes the race leader, and behind him is AC Milan. So the top 2 are both in the pit lane. Here they come. John Martin looks for his pit. Jelmer Berman does likewise, and that's going to put Tottenham Hotspur now up into the lead because Craig Dolby has stayed out on track. Now you can absolutely compare pit stops. Beijing and AC Milan, the top 2 in the race, then make the pit stops at the end of the 12th lap.
Ooh, new tyres for everyone. Ooh, and he made some time into that pit stop. It's key, the pit stop, it's key. And Olympiacos is going to be leading. Amazing. How come?
Chris van der Drift has done it by the look of it on the pit stops. Fantastic. So Beijing stays ahead of AC Milan, but all of a sudden there's a different car to worry about now. Olympique Lyonnais is in the pit lane as well. That's Sébastien Bourdais.
Not a great pit stop for Olympique Lyonnais. They had a problem at the front.
It's just not been a great season for Olympique Lyonnais. They've had 1 win, but all sorts of dramas as well.
AS Roma not on new tyres.
Julien Juste blasts back into the race. There is Sébastien Bourdais, being careful not to cut the white line. And you've got also there Anderlecht David Erigon coming into the pit. So he's done the hard work. He's gained a few places. Now he bails out of the race and goes through the pit lane and is about to rejoin now. So not everybody, but most making early pit stops. And in most cases, getting new rubber on the Super League Formula cars. 750 brake horsepower, remember, with their V12 engines. Fantastic noise and a fantastic spectacle around here as FC Basel tries to go for a place on the inside. Max Wissel now.
He's behind Marcos Martinez from Sevilla, who hasn't done his pit stop yet. Oh, and he makes a mistake. Keeps it together. Yeah, so basically he's lapping a back marker and he goes through. That's good.
And we've got the race leader, in fact. Spurs coming down the pit lane now. Craig Dolby is in. So Tottenham Hotspur down the pit lane. There is Craig Dolby. Behind him, FC Porto has come in as well. That's going to put the non-stopping as yet PSV Eindhoven into the lead of the race. But of course, it's all going to shuffle once Renka de Kane comes in. So Craig Dolby's team goes to work, drops the back down, drops the front down, and away he goes.
Yes, good pit stop for him. We are having Beijing being the leader. Sorry, I thought for some reason that Olympiacos was leading, but it was another car, another white and red car.
Now this is Craig Dolby's view, of course, having just got back into the race after that pit stop, and of course he's got to be on the money straight away. Can't really bet himself in, as in now comes Galatasaray. That's Tristan Gomendi, who was way back anyway. He's had a pretty miserable time this weekend, qualified last of all on the grid. Galatasaray team turn him around, send him back into the race, but I think really he's going to have to hope now for the reverse grid race to do him the power of good this weekend.
Yes, Beijing lapping extremely fast with the fastest overall sector, personal best in the second sector, so he's really making the most out of the new tyres. Now we're seeing a battle between FC Porto, AS Roma, Julien Jousse, and this is PSV, and AC Milan is behind PSV who's pitting. Ooh, that was tight.
So Beijing has just done the best lap of the race. John Martin has done a 1 minute 20.9. He leads by over 3 seconds from AC Milan. I think possibly there, Jelmer Berman was delayed for a few corners behind PSV Eindhoven. So 3.3 seconds now is the gap between the top two. And all attention is on this man, the Dutchman, Jelmer Berman, to see what he can do about reducing that margin. PSV Eindhoven pitting, so Olympiacos will go up to third. We've also got Atletico de Madrid, Maria de Valotta down the pit lane. That's going to help Max Wissel and FC Basel to gain a couple of places now. But certainly AC Milan has lost time compared to the situation we had before the pit stops.
Yeah, it's clearly because he was stuck behind PSV Eindhoven and Narain Karthikeyan, who's just coming out of the pits now, as Maria de Valotta is finishing as well her tire change. So she's gonna rejoin where she was before. Let's have a look if she probably lost a bit of time as well during the pit stop, because David Erigon is probably in front now.
So the race leader is Beijing, John Martin, having done the fastest lap of the race, leading by 3.3 seconds. There he is, and the man that started on pole position is out on his own at the moment. But behind him, AC Milan, Jelmer Berman chasing after him, and we'll see at the end of this next lap whether the gap comes down or whether it extends. Through goes John Martin, Beijing leading the way then. That lap was about 6/10 slower than his previous one, and so the gap is down by 1/10 of a second, that's all, because Jelmer Berman is now 3.2 seconds back for AC Milan. There's a big gap, though, between the top two and the rest as they cross the line now. In third place is Olympiacos, Chris van der Drift, the driver. And then the next car through in fourth place is FC Basel. And down to fifth, therefore, is Spurs. So Craig Dolby, having worked his way up the order, has lost a place. In sixth is Flamengo, Franck Pereira. And in seventh, look back, there is Olympique Lyonnais. Sébastien Bourdais comes across the line, being chased in turn by FC Porto in eighth place. Ninth is AS Roma, and the top 10 rounded out by Corinthians.
AS Roma trying to make a move on FC Porto, Alvaro Parente, but he doesn't quite make it. He's right in his gearbox.
Alvaro Parente, with lots of experience of different single-seaters, knows exactly how to defend. And everybody now has served their mandatory pit stop. There's still 3 minutes of the pit window to go, but everyone has been in. Marcos Martinez there, one of the last drivers to serve his mandatory pit stop, having, of course, been involved in that battle earlier on with David Erigon. And the man that's new to Superleague Formula this year will accordingly drop back down the order now.
Not a great pit stop for them, but the race is anyways not going so well up to now. And David Erigon is right in front of PSV. Sorry, David.
Yeah, no, he's got himself ahead, hasn't he, there? That's a change for 12th place since the start of the lap. Anderlecht is through. It is, as you rightly say, Bruce, the battle between Anderlecht and PSV Eindhoven, but a different order, so it's another place gained by David Erigon. And I'm a bit surprised Narain Karthikeyan has dropped back, because normally he has proved over the years a very hard racer, but David Erigon has gone past him, and now he's looking to pull away, isn't he?
Yes, he's at the team that looks after Narain Karthikeyan's car is a new technical team to the series, and they still haven't found a good balance for the car, or at least a balance that suits Narain, and they're still a bit struggling with the car. As you can see, David Erigon completely sideways when he takes on the throttle. A little bit of a limited moment. Let's hear the engine. so bumpy at the end of the straight that it even affects the camera. Very hard on the driver, and the top speed that you just saw was nearly 300 kilometers per hour in this big V12 powered Superleague Formula car.
Now, the best lap of the race done last time by AC Milan, and the gap is coming down. The gap now is down from 4/10 in that first sector alone. But let's go to the pit lane and find out what happened to Franck Montagny. He's with Abby.
Frank, I know that you wanted this weekend to start your campaign proper. What went wrong?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bad day again. The car is just not good, you know. I mean, we tried to do our max, but all the pieces on the car is so old and so bad that we always have problems. Clutch, throttle.
We're back with the race leader, Franck Montagny, who's really not happy and had lots of problems recently. That's the sport. It's a mechanical sport, and as always, you can get problems.
And he sounded about as downbeat as you can be. But just looking at this lead battle now, Beijing, of course, the first Superleague Formula champions when Davide Rigon drove for them, being caught. There, AC Milan has brought the gap down from 3.3 seconds to 2.4 seconds. And this is AS Roma now. Julien Jousse only half a second and catching FC Porto. The two of them together. This the fight for 8th and 9th places. Pared just ahead for FC Porto, but AS Roma is right there. Great battles now into this second part of the race. Of course, we've had the pit stop, so now they've got to go to the end on these tyres. As Liverpool back in already, James Walker has had to stop for a punctured tyre. Now he serves his mandatory pit stop just in the nick of time because the pit window is now closed.
Yes,
it's a bit close.
For the last 10 seconds. So it was a good timing from them. Very, very on the limit.
Now, the FC Porto AS Roma battle continues. You can see there the pit lane times, 31 seconds for Beijing, quicker than for AC Milan, quicker again than Olympiacos, but a very good 30-second stop for FC Basel. That's not just the tyre change, it's pit in and pit out as well. So FC Basel gaining time, and you can see that's partly why they're back ahead of Spurs. Slower for Olympique Lyonnais. Good stop for AS Roma, but not as good as Corinthians or Anderlecht, for example, and very slow for PSV Eindhoven, nearly getting on for 36 seconds. And a slow stop as well for Seville and for Liverpool, who could ill afford a slow stop.
Yes, he could, and we're having a look at Julien Jousse being on the attack on FC Porto. Alvaro Parente, two great drivers. Alvaro Parente with lots of experience in single seaters cannot make the apex there. It shows that the track is dirty and that it's hard as well. Track temperature is going up and they're starting to struggle a little bit with the car. Julien Jousse, and you can see that they're braking earlier, stopping the car quite a lot. They have to be very patient. Just now, look. Oh, a lot of understeer. So yeah, the tires are starting to suffer, and we know that those two guys didn't use new tires after the pit stop, so that's why it's even harder for them.
And they've got to last another 18.5 minutes here. Julien Jousse driving for AS Roma. After that little blind approach as he now turns from Ascari to Portago through the right-hander. Very tricky braking point for that section of the circuit, and fighting the wheel as he accelerates now out of the corner. Now, as this battle rages on for 8th and 9th places, let's just have a quick look at Maria de Vallota leaving the pit lane. Was that a white line cut?
Yes. It's not much. It's probably 40 centimeters. Well, actually, a meter and a half from the onboard. But it is a white line cross, yes.
You might suggest the amount of white paint is not consistent all the way along that line, but clearly there was paint evident where she drove over it. Now Spurs, 5th, Craig Dolby, and he's doing his best to catch FC Basel, but he's got 4.8 seconds to make up. If anything, Franck Pereira is starting to look a bit more menacing. A second and a half between them now, 5th and 6th places, and very deep into the corner there goes Craig Dolby as he turns through Le Mans up towards the slow part at Farina. The gap, by the way, continues to tumble between the race leaders. 3.3 after the pit stops. He's down to a second and a half now. So John Martin is being caught for Beijing by AC Milan, and he's going to have to make that car very, very wide. Jelmer Berman always goes well around Jarama, and here is more evidence of it because you can see that he's getting quicker and quicker in the sectors, and he's bringing that gap down. Yeah,
he's completely on the attack. You can see him very aggressive on the brakes, and he's you can tell by the driver's head position in the car about how much concentrate he is and the way he sets the car into the corner. And just now he's really on the attack, very aggressive, puts his head down in the straight.
He's brought the gap down again. Another couple of tenths pull back on that lap as he goes to that bumpy first corner. A little bit sideways under braking, but he hustles on through that right-hander now, and he's desperately trying to catch John Martin, but even if he catches him, he's then got this problem of finding the room to get past him, so this is only half of the battle.
Yeah, which is super hard around Jarama to find a way past, plus John Martin defends very well, plus they're only lapping 2/10 difference per lap, so when he's going to get closer, he's going to be into the tour and it's going to be difficult.
Marcus Martinez back into the pit lane for Seville, and that looks as though that's a retirement. There's the race leader, then John Martin, somebody else going slowly, being lapped. James
Walker, just because he's already a lap down, just let the leaders through. That's nice from him.
He's going to find himself near the pointy end of the grid for the second race, the reverse grid race. Interestingly as well, despite the fact that John Martin is being caught, he's used more of his push to pass, push to pull away, extra 1,000 revs here. So in other words, there's one more in reserve for AC Milan. This battle is for 8th place. It's still FC Porto ahead of AS Roma, and AS Roma getting closer and closer all the time. Another push to pass has just been used by AC Milan, as I was talking about that, and the gap down a little bit more. But look at this, Parent for FC Porto under massive pressure now. AS Roma getting closer and closer. Julien Jus closes up once more under braking as they turn now through Portago. We're about to plunge downhill. Alvaro Parent stands his ground then. FC Porto 8th, AS Roma is in 9th place for the moment. And downhill they come, looking back from FC Porto. Into the braking zone now for Bugatti, and this is for the race lead, and you can see now the gap down again from 1.3 to 0.7 of a second now. Throw the stopwatch away, just look at the two cars, they're that close. Jelmer Berman is catching for the race lead. It is still Beijing ahead, but in this second stint, a superb drive being turned in by AC Milan.
Yes, he's just used a push to pass in the straight and caught him up a lot, and he caught more than half a second on that last lap, so he's right into the tail of John Martin, and it's important to get as early as possible back into his tail just to put some pressure. John Martin is going to start looking in his mirrors. He might do some mistakes. You want to be there and push him until he does a mistake.
They've both got 3 push-to-pass uses left, so in that respect they're level pegging, but in terms of lap time, of late, AC Milan has been the quicker. Remember, after the pit stops, 3.3 seconds separated them, and it was 0.7 of a second at the start of this lap. AC Milan quicker in Sector 1, Beijing slightly quicker in Sector 2. These, the 2 race leaders of the first race here at Jarama for the 4th round of Superleague Formula for this year, and Beijing fends off for the moment AC Milan, but as Bruciani rightly says, now John Martin is going to be looking in those mirrors a little bit more to know exactly where AC Milan's car is behind him, and then there's the potential that he might just make the occasional tiny error, and that's all it will take for AC Milan to capitalise on that and make a bid for the lead. The gap's down again under braking, look, as they go through Fangio, now back onto the power and accelerate through Vazzi and then on towards Le Mans.
Yeah, that's another 10th gained by AC Milan and Jelmer Berman. He was 1/10 quicker on that last lap, and he's there right now. You can't get a lot closer than that, sorry.
So he's done the catching now.
Yeah, he's done the catching.
All
now
he's got to do is get past.
Yeah, it's the strategy to find where he's going to be able to pass, and with the push to pass, there is only one place with these big cars. It's in the straight line, so he's going to go for a push to pass when he's going to think that he's close enough in the last corner. And oh, side by side, FC Porto AS Roma, even into the grass. Let's have a look on board. Let's listen. Let's have a look. Yes, Julien Jus went on the outside line trying to outbrake Alvaro Parente there, but it's not possible. Lots of experience for both of them. Not going to trick him like that.
Yeah, he tried the switch back up the inside, so you could see what he was up to, and it almost worked because he came out with a gap, but he wasn't really close enough to get the power down and then level and go through. So that doesn't work for AS Roma. What about AC Milan? The gap has just crept up a little bit to 0.8 of a second over the line that go down through the right-hander of Fangio as they battle on for the race lead. Let's go back down to the pit lane and Abby.
Borka, you're on home soil, but this weekend just hasn't gone your way.
Yeah, very bad luck because yesterday in qualifying I have a problem with the engine. Now for today I have a new engine, and the engine was really good. When I tried to overtake the other guys, I brake in the dark surface. I got off from the track. I hope for the second race the car is get ready, and we'll see what happens in the second race. I hope for me, for my team, and also for the Spanish guy to do a very good second race.
So disappointment for Borja Garcia out of the race then. Disappointment for Sporting as well, out very, very early on, sad to say, as he plunged off the road at the first corner. Now the race leading battle has just, for the moment, I think crept up in favour of Beijing because John Martin was able to just edge clear slightly. Meantime, Craig Dolby for Spurs under pressure because Font Pereira is right on his tail. This is 5th and 6th. Tottenham Hotspur's Craig Dolby, Flamengo's Font Pereira, and the gap between them at the start of this lap was 0.6 of a second, but Pereira now doing a really good job here, Bruce, bringing that gap down and starting to pressure the English driver.
Yeah, he was doing well yesterday in qualifying, didn't quite do a perfect lap, and now he's pushing.
Race leaders go through 0.6 of a second, so the gap has come down once more at the end of the lap. A couple of tenths pulled back by AC Milan, and Jelmer Berman doing his trick now, closing up a little bit onto the back of John Martin, trying to distract him, then just perhaps dropping away a little bit, looking after his tyres, then having another surge, and John Martin is still in the box seat because he just has to defend. As long as he can do that successfully, life is going to be very hard indeed for AC Milan.
The two of them have used a push to pass, one to attack, the other one to defend, and now we're back with Tottenham defending from Flamengo.
And Flamengo have used all of their push to pass now, so there's nothing in reserve, is there, for Font Pereira?
No, nothing reserved, and there was one slow car driving around.
As Porto still tries to defend from AS Roma. Julian Jou's not really close enough at Fangio this time to do that switch back up on the inside, so he's going to try and claw back that lost time on this lap, and then maybe he can attack next time around.
FC Porto has 2 push to pass to defend, AS Roma just 1 to attack.
Jou's really frustrated yesterday when he had that lock-up, when he got out of the car, stormed away, threw his gloves away, calmed down a little bit eventually to speak to us, but he was massively irritated by his mistake. And this, the race-leading duel. In the first sector, AC Milan slightly quicker. In the second sector, Beijing slightly quicker. And at the end of the lap, the gap has gone up to 0.7 of a second. It is very, very close between the two. But John Martin is still controlling the race as he comes down through that little kink at Nuvolari, then right through Fangio. Tricky part of the circuit, that.
Yeah, very tricky part there, especially with this big single-seater. It's a big car, not so heavy, but difficult to maneuver around there.
And the line is different as well because you've got that little kink and then the right-hander as well. So sit in the middle of the road and you have to just jump slightly to the left. Now the race is on to lap 26. We've got less than 10 minutes to go of this first Super League Formula race of the day at Jarama. Ooh, Craig Dolby makes a mistake for Spurs, going into Fangio, and that straight away puts Flamengo right on his tail. Can Flamengo capitalise on this? Coming out of the corner, not really near enough. Good recovery there by Spurs.
Yeah, good recovery. We're back with FC Porto and AS Roma. There are battles all along the field, but those drivers are very experienced and confident, and they deal with the pressure very well, and they're not making much mistakes.
We just had back into the pit lane, by the way, Front Montagny, who'd done a lap, I think, as a test session, ready for race 2, but that was the slow car that was identified, and clearly all is still not well. Here are the leaders, Beijing versus AC Milan. They've been this way since the start of the race, but Jelmer Berman has by no means given up, has he? He's still trying as hard as he can, and John Martin is still being able to withstand the challenge, withstand the pressure, the gap down by hundredths of a second. That's all on that last lap through. 26 laps are done, 8 3/4 minutes of the race remain. They turn now through the first corner at Fangio, and the gap again a little bit less under braking.
Yes, a little bit less under braking, and you can see a different line between the two cars.
Now Olympiacos being caught a bit by FC Basel, possibly. Here they come. Olympiacos' Chris van der Drift is third, and FC Basel's Max Wissel is behind him as they turn out of Fangio. Chris van der Drift, having had that race win at Assen, having a very good season in Super League Formula. And as Olympiacos runs third, behind is FC Basel, Max Wissel, Many Core winner, but he's not as yet close enough to do anything about gaining a place out of this, and I fear that it's going to be a bit of a struggle now because Chris van der Drift seems to have the edge over FC Basel. 8 more minutes of the race to go. There is Max Wissel. Accelerates his way over the brow of the hill through the approach to Ascari and then up towards Portago at the top of the John Hugenholtz designed circuit.
And FC Basel has used most of their push to pass, only 1 left to go. Olympiacos has still 4 to defend. He should use 1 or 2 just to try to pull away a little bit and get closer to the leaders. He's probably gonna overtake very soon James Walker in front of him, who's just a back marker who had a problem earlier on. He's gonna let him through.
Leaders go through. There is Jelmer Berman for AC Milan. The gap is down again to 0.6 of a second. It's somewhat elasticated now between the top 2, but traffic is ahead of them. Now this could be quite intriguing to see how John Martin copes with getting past the slower cars. He's still got this constant shadow of AC Milan right there behind the Beijing car, turning their way now into the slow sequence of corners. Le Mans and then Farina. The back markers loom ahead, and John Martin now must have a slightly heavy heart here, thinking this is all I need. I've got pressure from behind, and I'm going to have to concentrate on the traffic, which, to be fair, slows right down and lets him through. Perfect back marker driving that.
That's perfect, yeah. Franck Montagny knows that it was the leaders just there. He's just testing the car to make sure the car's going to be ready for the next race.
And John Martin wants to go into that next race as a race winner in Superleague Formula, but is he going to be able to do so? Because Jelmer Berman is still there and chasing. He managed to pull back a fraction of a second within the first sector. John Martin traditionally is stronger in this middle sector, but as they drop downhill into Bugatti, this double apex left-hander, there is AC Milan still chasing after Beijing. Are we going to have celebrations or commiserations at AC Milan's pit perch by the end of the race? Well, second is looking pretty good.
I think AC Milan is very close now, and he should try to use a push to pass. It's the moment now. Yes, he is.
Yeah.
He's on it.
Come out of Tunnel, and yeah, a push to pass has been used, so this is his chance. Over the line they come with 6 more minutes of the race to go, but is AC Milan close enough? Down they go to the first corner, an extra 1,000 revs. He looks to the inside, can't do it, and the car goes off ahead. It might have been Marcus Martinez right ahead of the race leaders who survived. They go through the corner, but they come out nose to tail.
And they're very close. I thought John Martin went sideways. He used the push to pass as well. That's the thing. His engineer told him, behind you, he's on the push to pass, use one to defend. That's what he did. They're still side by side.
Martin goes a little bit wide, doesn't he? Beijing really feeling this pressure now. As Bruce says, they've now got only one push to pass left. And in the case of AC Milan, it's a push to pass. In Beijing's case, it's push to pull away. Is that going to happen for them as they climb uphill? Let's see now. We've had that car slide off ahead of them. That was another scare John Martin could have done with that. He's able to cope with that and the pressure from behind. So with now just over 5 more minutes of the race to go, can Beijing score a first win of the championship this season? Coming then now from Portago downhill to Bugatti. The race-leading battle continues apace. Tricky part of the circuit, this, of course. It's a very fast downhill section into a very hard braking zone.
Yes, indeed. You're going downhill, so it's very hard to stop the car. Now they both know the track well, and John Martin pulled away a little bit again. There's another nearly 5 minutes to go. Only one push to pass. The strategy is to get as close as possible, as we just saw on the lap before. The engineers are having a close look at the push to pass buttons as well, telling the drivers when to use it.
And another little mistake made by John Martin. He's probably got on the gravel there, and he runs wide. Up the inside goes AC Milan. They're wheel to wheel. They touch. AC Milan comes out almost alongside, but no, not able to take advantage was Jelmer Berman. So somehow Beijing still retains the race lead, but that was the closest yet John Martin has come to disaster. He did a very good job of being able to recover from that. For a moment it looked as though the lead was lost, and now Berman is sideways.
Yes, because the tires are going away. They've both been pushing really hard, asked a lot to their tires. We're having a look again. Mistake from John Martin, goes in completely sideways. Oop, not completely, but oop, sideways again. Couldn't stop the car. He's way too deep into the corner. Now he defends the inside line. Ooh, and Jelmer Berman got a little bit scared and stick the car towards the inside.
And he's dropped back as a result of all of that. But of course, it was a lap ago at that corner that we saw Seville go off the road, and it may have been that some gravel was kicked onto the circuit. So whether that was what caught out John Martin or just a straightforward driver error, well, he's retained the lead. He's kept the advantage. So despite Jelmer Berman's efforts, and he's tried pretty much everything now, hasn't he? He still can't dislodge the Beijing car that leads the race. This is third. Olympiacos, Chris van der Drift, turning his way now in a somewhat lonely third place. 2 seconds back is where you find FC Basel's Max Wissel, but he too just cannot seemingly do much about the car ahead of him. The leaders go through, and the gap is 0.6 of a second. We've got just over 3 more minutes of the race to go. Well, John Martin said, didn't he, at the end of qualifying, happy days. This could be an even happier day for him if he can hang on in the race lead.
Yeah, but as we saw, the tires are getting old, and now Jelmer Berman is very close again. But they're in the part of the circuit where it's not so easy to overtake. It's actually easier to get in a contact. Marcos Martinez back on track with James Walker, 2 of them being sort of out of the race. Now it's Tottenham Hotspurs, followed still by Frank Pereira, who hasn't got a push to pass to try to overtake, but he's really pushing hard and still in Craig's gearbox.
And Spurs has only got 1 push to pass left as well, so Craig Dolby needs to be careful when he uses that to try to pull away. Takes that very wide approach, doesn't he, to that corner? We've seen him do that before going through Le Mans.
Yeah, it's his own line and gets a bit sideways everywhere. Lost a bit of rear tire efficiency apparently.
Comes over the rise up towards Ascari. This the battle, remember, for 5th and 6th places there. Flamengo's Franck Pereira chasing after Tottenham Hotspur, and Craig Dolby having done some good overtaking off the line, then losing out in the pit stop, so costing himself a place and not really having been able to recover from that. The race now into its last 2 minutes. The leaders have gone across the line with half a second between them, but Dolby, remember, this is the championship leading car for Tottenham Hotspur, turns its way through the left-hander at Bugatti. John Martin turns his way out of the right-hander of Fangio, and once again his mirrors are absolutely full of black and red paint, because there, AC Milan, Jelmer Berman catching back up once again. Beijing had a very good start to its association with Superleague Formula, thanks to Davide Rigon winning the first championship, but they've had a rather long spell in the wilderness since then. And there again, Berman challenging, and he locks up. AC Milan really now taking the fight to Beijing. They're going to possibly squeeze one more lap. Yeah, they will squeeze one more lap out of the race at the end of this. So Berman now knows that for AC Milan, he's running out of options.
No, he has to be close now into the last corner, because it's now that he's going to use the push to pass. Therefore, it's probably now as well that Beijing is going to use to push to pass to defend. I was going to say he's going to have a look on the inside, and he locked the wheels. Oh, lots of tension in the paddock there, in the Beijing group, and there he goes.
Now the move starts here, doesn't it? He's got to get close, and then coming out of the next right-hander towards Tunnel, then use that push to pass. So you've got to think about this and start it from a long way back. Here comes
exactly.
Little lock-up, I thought there, and he's going to go deep through the corner.
Oh, he made a mistake, but he's going to use the push to pass now. He has to, isn't he? No, he's not. He's not. Just because he made a mistake, he outbraked himself into that last corner. He ruined his chance.
Onto the last lap they go, and 0.6 of a second apart. That's it. Ruined his chance for an effort there. Can he fight back from there? Can Jelmer Berman for AC Milan do anything now to make up for that little error? It's all it took, of course, to compromise his own race, but fair play to John Martin. He's had to cope with a lot more than that, and John Martin so far has been wheel perfect in this race.
Yeah, I would have used the push to pass now, because anyways, he wouldn't have been able to use it on the next lap. It's impossible, because once you use the push to pass, you have a 2-minute gap.
But he's closed, he's there, and as they come now uphill, they're going to have traffic ahead of them as well. So this is going to be another drama for John Martin. We've already seen what happens when you get up behind back markers. One of them went off the road ahead of him, which made his heart rate go up. And as they come towards the middle part of the lap, the gap between the leaders is coming down. They go through Potago now. Looks as though it's going to be the Galatasaray car ahead. Yes, it is. There's Tristan Gormandy. So the two race leaders with the gap coming down again within Sector 1. Jelmer Berman is fighting back. He has certainly not given up. And as they drop downhill there, he's close under braking.
He should use it now. It's now or never. Use it now, use it now. No, he's not. He's not, because he could try to dive in there and still would have kept it through the last piece of the straight. Let's see what he does. No, he's not using it. He's kind of given up on trying to take a risk or a chance.
It's going to be a win for Beijing. They both use the push to pass now, coming up to the checkered flag, but it's too late for AC Milan because Beijing is victorious.
This is your last lap.
And they
fantastic drive. John Martin wins for Beijing. Jelmer Berman second for AC Milan, and Olympiakos will be third. Chris van der Drift comes across the line. And fourth, FC Basel. But what a drive by Beijing. John Martin, absolutely superb performance, that.
Yeah, very good job from him. I'm pleased because he was very unlucky previously in the season. He did a good job. Good job from Craig Dolby as well, finishing sixth from starting, fifth from starting eighth. Good job from Frank Pereira, who's finishing sixth. Lyon, seventh. Quiet race. FC Porto, eighth, defending on AS Roma.
Yeah, the Olympique Lyonnais race, quiet by the standards of Manicourt, but the car comes home in one piece. Corinthians gets ninth place, and what's happened to AS Roma, because that car has yet to come across the line. So in fact, Anderlecht has just sneaked into the top 10, and we've lost seemingly AS Roma on the last lap.
What a good performance from Davide Rigon. He didn't know the track before, and he's 10th. That's it. No more fuel probably from Julien Jousse. Yeah, he's moving and trying to make the car move ahead.
It's a good job it's downhill, isn't it now?
Yes. Davide Rigon from last, or nearly last, to 10th, scoring 1 point. Very good job from him.
And celebrations in the Beijing pit, because John Martin has taken a great victory there and withstood all the pressure to do that. The Alan Docking Racing mechanics that run the car can celebrate. The Doc himself is there. And Julien Jousse has just crept over the line. And let's have a look at the way they finished, because John Martin, we know, has been the race winner. 0.4 of a second was the margin. Beijing wins from AC Milan, and Olympiakos in third. FC Basel taking fourth, Tottenham Hotspur fifth, and Flamengo sixth. Olympique Lyonnais seventh, with FC Porto eighth. Corinthians ninth, and Anderlecht, a great drive by Davide Rigon, rounding out the top 10. And then behind them, after one or two teams being in the wars, PSV Eindhoven, 11th, Atletico Madrid, 12th, AS Roma limps home, 13th, but it should have been better, 14th, Galatasaray, Seville, 15th, the troubled Liverpool, 16th, and Girondins de Bordeaux and Sporting effectively retirements, Front Montagne ending up in the pit lane, and Borja Garcia ending up in the gravel. Well, there's John Martin making his way towards Parc Fermé, and you can expect more happy days, I think, to be expressed by John. He was delighted after qualifying, and he's someone that's always been quick, whether it's been in Formula Ford or Formula 3 or Formula Renault 3.5, but he's never had a huge amount of luck, but finally it's come good for him. Jelmer Berman there, talking to his dad, Herman Berman, who was a very quick GT racer years ago in a Marcos. And the Australian, yes, I've done it, he says, gets out of the car. Celebrates with the team.
There's a bit of an Australian crew as well.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. All Aussies together for Beijing, all with the trademark green sunglasses. John's girlfriend's equally delighted. It's been a long time coming, that win.
Yep.
So he's very happy with it, understandably so.
Good job, good job.
But he's got 2 more races yet.
Yes, 2 more races. We'll see if he gets into the final. I hope for him he does.
Yeah, the super final based on the points scored rather than finishing positions. It's the points scored over the 2 races. And Chris van der Drift there, talking to the Olympiacos team. Another good solid drive that by Chris. Of course, he's had that win at Assen, and there he is again up at the pointy end of the result. So he'll be pretty pleased with that, I would hope.
Yeah, very consistent, very fast all the way. Up there in the qualifying shootouts as well. So no, a good job from Chris. I think he likes the car, got used to it very quickly, and they're going to work to go and get into the super final.
Crash helmet off, earplugs out, and this was the way they came across the line with just 0.4 of a second separating Beijing from AC Milan at the end of the first race here at Jarama. Well, John Martin is the race winner, Beijing the winning team, and the Australian was absolutely elated after taking pole position yesterday. He is no doubt going to be equally happy, if not more happy, after a race win, and he's there ready to talk to Abby.
John, happy days.
Happy days indeed. It's yeah, awesome. Awesome.
Come on, we've got another race. We've got another race to win.
I think I'm going to get in a group hug situation. John, we've talked before that you, let me go this way, that you are great at attacking, you're great at defending. Jelmer did not give up there, and you did not buckle under the pressure.
No, for sure. You know, it's like the same as Magny-Cours. You know, race 1 we had a lot of pressure from behind, so I knew I could just hold him up. I was just worried about the push to pass. It when I knew I was like even on push to pass, I was like sweet, you know. So all I had to do then is just try and drive consistently. I made a couple of little mistakes, but you know, here we are. Just yeah, awesome.
It was a great great race to watch even, thanks John. And here's the man that was just pushing so hard. Jelmer, what an attacking race.
Yeah, thank you. No, I tried. I mean, John started on new tyres. I was on used ones, so he just at the edge of me there. And I made up quite a lot on the entry of the pit lane. I was quite close. But his pit stop was just a bit faster, and then yeah, a bit unlucky with the PSV car, which was in the same lap as us, so he didn't get a blue flag. But you know, we were racing for the lead, and he had to make his pit stop. And I was just behind him for half a lap or something, and made the gap too big.
Yeah, well, can you tell us what happened with the wheel clash that you actually had with John Martin?
John outbraked himself a bit on the first corner, and I tried to get him on the inside, but he didn't see me, and I was actually with 2 wheels in the grass, I think. And we touched. I hope the car's all right, because we have the next race in 5 minutes. But no, it was. I mean, in the end, I was quite quick, and it's just a shame they finished the race 1 lap too soon.
Okay.
And,
well, I'm going to let you get ready, and we're going to go over to trophy presentation. Thank you.
Well, Jelmer Berman saying then that it was finished a lap too soon. The clock had certainly hit the 45 minutes. I think we did hear the team saying this is your last lap, but the checker flag was there at the correct time. So Antonio Serrano, the RACE Vice President, the organising club here at Circuito del Jarama, is going to present the trophies to the winning drivers. John Martin then the victor, Jelmer Berman second, and Olympiacos' Chris van der Drift is going to be there in a moment, having finished in 3rd place. And good to have different teams taking the victory this time. So John Martin there in the blue overalls. But first of all, Jelmer Berman receives his trophy for 2nd place. And somewhere is Chris van der Drift for Olympiacos. He's probably still going through his race with his team. But Jelmer Berman, once again, proving how good he is around Jarama. But today, not as good as John Martin, who scores Beijing's first victory of the season. And the Australian driver, thumbs up, receives his trophy. And this a great boost in the championship, of course, to Beijing. 17th going into this race. And now, with a big haul of points, will have made some good progress, no doubt, in the championship standings. And John Martin has worked so hard for that over the qualifying session, and of course there just that one little mistake, but other than that, a perfect race in race 1 of Super League. There's another 45-minute race coming up, don't forget, later in the day, and then we have the 5-lap super final to look forward to. Well, let's have a look at how it all began. The first race here at Jarama had John Martin and Jelmer Berman side by side into the first corner, but Beijing was able to claim the line, with AC Milan slotting in second place. Everybody survived the first corner, and then battles started to shape up all the way through the field. Spurs attacked FC Basel and was able to gain a place, an audacious pass by Craig Dolby. In trouble straight away, though, was Borja Garcia, who went off into the gravel at the first corner. And he wasn't the only driver in trouble. James Walker for Liverpool had a puncture. He therefore had to make an extra pit stop. That lost him a lap, and it put him out of the race. Then into the gravel for good was Borja Garcia. His race over, and the leaders made their way towards the pit stop window, with Beijing having an advantage, but a good pit in for AC Milan made the gap come down. Olympiacos, Chris van der Drift kept on pushing. He was good for third place. But this little mistake by John Martin very nearly cost him the race lead. Jelmer Berman made a move to the inside. They brushed wheels, but he still couldn't find a way through. And so Beijing came across the line. John Martin behind the wheel of the car to score his and the team's first win of 2010. Tottenham Hotspur still leads the championship. AC Milan a little bit closer in second. FC Basel in third, and RSC Anderlecht now fourth, ahead of Olympiacos and Flamengo. AS Roma seventh, eighth is Sporting, and ninth is FC Porto. Liverpool still stuck in 10th after James Walker's troubled race. Behind, Atletico Madrid is now 11th, Seville is 12th, and we now have Beijing up from 17th to 14th after a very good race by John Martin, the man of the moment. Well, it might all change again, of course, after race 2. But for now, the drivers can go away and have a brief think about 45 minutes of racing around Jarama. But it's going to be an intriguing reverse grid for the second race. And, of course, John Martin's going to have a huge amount of work to do from the back.
Oh, yes. But it's already a big amount of points that he scored today, and he needed them. Now it's a complete new story from the back, because it's hard to overtake you in Jarama, as we just saw. And but he has the performance to do it, so let's have a look.
Now this is how they're going to line up for the second race. Borja Garcia will be on pole position alongside Franck Montagny for Girondins de Bordeaux. James Walker for Liverpool. Marcos Martinez for Sevilla FC will be on the second row of the grid. Franck Montagny is going to be a man to watch from there. The third row, Julien Jousse, despite his problems at the very end of race 1, is going to be on the third row. And Tristan Gomendi alongside him for Galatasaray. Then Atletico Madrid and PSV Eindhoven on the fourth row of the grid. Row 5 is where we find Anderlecht and Corinthians, and then Porto and Olympique Lyonnais on the 6th row. Row 7 is going to be Flamengo and Spurs, ahead of FC Basel and Olympiacos. And then the back row, AC Milan and Beijing. Let's hear, though, next from Chris van der Drift with Abby.
Chris, your pit stops are just phenomenal.
Yeah, they went really well again, so no, fantastic. It was good entry. I didn't practice it. It was the first time, so no, went all good. So what can I say? Good race and good finish.
Good luck in race 2.
So Chris van der Drift, of course, is going to be on the penultimate row for race 2, and it's not going to be easy to overtake, but we'll come to that when we get to race 2, and it's building up to be an absolute thriller, that, with some intriguing drivers at the front and some very successful drivers are going to be there at the rear of the grid. So race 2 coming up very shortly here from Jarama, as the teams now start their preparations for the second 45-minute race. And of course, after that, we have got the super final to look forward to as well. The grid girls making their way out on track, ready for the build-up to the second race. But for now, John Martin, who has done a great job in race 1, can think about what he's going to be able to do from the very back of the grid. He's helped Beijing in the championship, and he has been able to, of course, secure a first victory of the season. But now he's going to start last on the grid. It's going to be pretty hard to make much progress on there, but we'll see how he gets on. So another 45 minutes of racing to look forward to here from Jarama, and it's going to be an absolutely all-action race. For the moment, from Abby Griffiths, Bruce Joanny, and me, David Addison, it's goodbye, but make sure you're back here at Jarama, ready for race 2 of Super League Formula very shortly.